Hey folks, Josh Steiner at the Fishin Hole. Today we're going to be talking about pike fishing and the proper pike setup that you should be using when targeting those hard fighting fish. Pike are traditionally a harder fighting, heavier, longer fish, which means you need a little bit more stiffer rods, heavier pound test because you're usually tossing bigger lures. On the rod side of things, I recommend like a 6.5 to 7.5 foot rod, medium heavy or even possibly heavy, depending on what type of line you're using and what type of lures you're going to be tossing. So for example, this rod here is a 7 foot medium heavy, and this is rated between 10 to 17 pound test, meaning you have to keep your line within that rating. If you don't, and say you throw on like 30 pound test on the rod and you get a snag or a big fish and you really reef on the rod, your rod will probably break before your line because your rod isn't rated for 30 pounds. If you keep it within 15 pounds, for example, because it's 10 to 17, your rod will withstand that weight, so your line, if you ever get snagged, will break before your rod, which is what you want. You don't want no broken rods, so always look at your line rating when choosing a rod. So when choosing a rod, you kind of want to have in mind what you're going to be tossing, whether it's going to be big paddle tails, big spoons, or even bigger baits like these, because you don't want to be tossing a 4 ounce jig or 4 ounce spoon when your rod is only rated to 1 ounces. The rod can't handle that, and it's not going to be good for it. And as for the line, it's all personal preference, but we recommend like a 15 or 20 pound braided. There's no stretch, no memory to it, and it'll last you 3 to 4 years. It's just strong, durable stuff for those strong fighting fish. And on the end of whatever line you choose, always run a leader. Whether it's a fluorocarbon leader or a stainless steel leader like this, pike have very sharp teeth and will break you off, and you will lose a lot of lures if you're not running a leader. So always, always, always have a leader on the end when you're targeting pike. That's kind of it for a little brief video on a pike setup. So let's recap. Medium heavy rod, 15 to 20 pound test of your choosing. Always use a leader, and depending on what lure you're using, check your lure ratings on the rod, because you might be tossing something like this or something like this. And if you have any more questions, come by any one of our Fishin Hole locations and our sales team will give you a hand and get you set up to get out on the water. See you later, guys.